And welcome back, everyone. It's great to be here again this afternoon with about 40,000 people behind. Today is going to have Danilo take over and interview something which actually was pretty cool, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, definitely, because the EC2 spot instances is one of my favorite EC2 features. I
Yeah.
always love helping customers save money on
Yeah.
their virtual servers. So
Yeah.
can you just start introducing yourself, and then we dive
Definitely.
deeper into this feature?
Will do. My name is Ani Daptardar. I'm engineering manager for EC2 pricing and launch services. Do you want to go over to Chris first and
Yeah.
then come back?
Sure, I'm Chris Bond. I'm founder of ThinkBox Software
Great.
and
so-
director of product management.
so
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So can you describe what spot instances are
Yeah.
and how they can be used to save money?
Definitely. So there are three different pricing mechanisms with EC2. There is on-demand, reserved instances, and spot. On-demand is fairly straightforward. You have the capacity, you go and ask for capacity, you get it. Reserved is when you actually want to get capacity for longer durations. You have sustained load. You have 1 to 3 year RIs that you can request. With Spot, you have extra capacity that you're not selling on demand. Then we are offering them at 90 up to 90% discount over on-demand price.
Oh,
So
okay.
great savings for customers.
and what usually customers use Spot for, like in general?
Spot is useful for any application that you can use for EC2, except when you are fault tolerant and you are interruptible.
It's really good for workloads that need to scale up really quickly and scale back down.
Right.
And, in our case, you can think about rendering, visual effects, television shows, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sweet spot for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's in the sweet spot. Yeah.
I think we launched a bunch of new features here at reInvent and in the few weeks before. So
Right.
can we do a recap?
So the latest and greatest that we launched at reInvent is the new pricing model that we launched for Spot. Customers have loved getting up to 90% discount on by using Spot instances. Now, what we have done is we have maintained that discount, the hefty discounts that you get, but we have made it much more simple and made it much more streamlined. There are two main changes that we have achieved, right? What we have done is we have removed bidding altogether. So for customers who don't want to take on that complexity of bidding, that's out. No more price spikes. Your price doesn't change often. Previously, there would be spikes in the market, and you have to be worried about how much to bid and when. No more, right? You can just come in. Yeah, we can accept your bid if you want. If not, on-demand price, you're in. You get instances right away. Right. The second thing is that the price changes very gradually. You don't get the spikes, and add up to 6 hours for days, for weeks. The price doesn't change at all.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and the really interesting thing about it is that before, you could be displaced by somebody bidding a higher price, but now
Exactly.
that doesn't happen. So Spot users aren't competing against each other anymore.
Great point.
That's
Yeah.
great.
No more bidding wars.
Wow.
That's great.
So you mean we don't get the signal, move your application, you have to 2 minutes?
No, so that's one thing that has come up. Customers are worried about interruptions, and
Exactly.
when am I going to lose my instance? So we have actually made interruptions much more seamless. What we have done is we have always been giving 2-minute notifications, right? So when the instance is going to go away, we always send you this notification to tell you 2 minutes before that you're going to lose your instance, so you can save your workload, do whatever backlog stuff that you have to do. But a couple of months ago, we also launched something called as stop and start of Spot instances, which allows you to now save the state that you have in your EBS volumes on your instance, and then start from wherever you left off. So that was a great feature. This reInvent, what we recently launched, like today, was hibernation feature on
Exactly.
top, right? Which is
So what's that?
Well, yeah. So it's a step on top. It builds on top of the start and stop, but it also allows you to save the RAM that you have, anything that you're using. It's just like closing your laptop and then opening again.
So you could have in-memory application running in Spot,
Right.
and then hibernate and get
and
back
then
to it.
come
get
back.
the-
Exactly.
So
So
that's
you-
for application you want to do
Yeah, it-
calculation that you don't necessarily need the
Right,
result
so
right
if you're in
away.
the middle of a render and an on-demand capacity issue happens, you have 2 minutes and it goes away, that render will actually be stored to an EBS volume, and then when you get capacity back, it comes right back, right in the middle of it. So if you're like halfway done or 95% done, you would get it right back where you were and wouldn't lose any time at all.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How do customers use that? How simple is it to to get into
It is very straightforward. You know, we already with starts off, we are enabled this parameter which allows you to specify the interruption behavior with your instance. Now we have added one more parameter there for the same reasons. We can say, I would like my instance termination behavior to be hibernate.
Cool.
And it's as simple as that.
And does it work for Linux and Windows, or?
It works on all Linux, Windows. So
That's great.
lot of flexibility, and you don't have to fear terminations ever again.
And if I'm a developer and I build an application, right, we all like hacking around and build stuff. Do I need to prepare my application to be Hibernate enabled, or what are the suggestions, for example, you would say?
So Hibernate is basically a feature that allows you to save the state, right? So as long as your application is resumable, you are allowed. You can pretty much use that. So what Chris mentioned, you know, rendering jobs. You know, you have something that's ongoing. You save the state. Start from where you left off.
Yeah,
Great.
it's the same as closing your laptop and turning it back on. You don't have to do anything.
But those are concepts that are easy when you know about it. But you know, for developers that not necessarily have started to use this, but it can be quite tricky to understand the idea of hibernating an application. You know,
Yeah, and especially, you know, we have had this feedback that, you know, Spot is different, it has a different API, do I have to learn about this new API now or what? And we heard this feedback, and that's another thing that we launched at this reInvent. We realized that a run instances, everyone is familiar. That's an API that everyone uses for on-demand and for reserved instances. So we said, why not support Spot? Why the same API? You know, let's make everyone's life so much easier. And actually, you know, it's just literally one extra parameter to that API, and now you have Spot instances available.
Are we going to do a live demo of that?
Yeah, let's
I
show
would
a
love
live
to
demo.
see a live demo.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Guys,
everyone wants to do that. Can we switch to the demo on the screen? Awesome.
Yeah, so so here's the single line run instances command with instance market options, market type as Spot, and there you go. You request a Spot instance in on-demand type. You
So that's
have
it.
an instance ID right there. No more waiting. No more having to poll the bid ID to see whether there is an instance or not. So, you know, a fundamental shift in the way Spot operates. You know, no more asynchronous nature. You have all the you know, no new learnings for a new API to be done, and everything that is available for on-demand is available for Spot now. So there is a complete EC2 parity there.
So just adding the instance market options, and you can save
Just
up to
adding that.
90%.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
That's
Yes,
amazing,
one
right?
parameter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I can't wait to see what people do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you realize, if you see this, you'll realize that we haven't really specified a spot price there either.
Yeah.
So spot price has become optional, no more bidding. You are basically literally adding just, I want a spot instance, I got my spot instance there.
Yeah.
And how does the price work in there? So can you tell us a bit?
Yeah, prices still fluctuate over time, but very slowly. So it's based on the market and the location where you are, but it's going to be something that's not like spiky like before, every few hours. It's not going to change every few minutes. Essentially, it's going to be something that happens over weeks, you know? And what's interesting is you can set a max price. So you say, I absolutely only want instances if they're this price, and they maintain that price.
So you're still in control of your
You're
cost.
still completely in
Yeah,
control,
right.
right?
That's great.
So there's a question from BES on Twitch that says, does this hibernation work with any EC2 instances?
With any EC2 instance, yes. Anything that you can support that you can do with run instances, it's supported by a spot.
The hibernation.
Hibernate as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, all of these features. Like, I think that's one of the things that we realize that developers have different options in front of them, and not everybody uses one particular API or a service. And we have worked very hard last couple of years trying to make sure that Spot is integrated in all different offerings that we have. So we are integrated with ELB, we integrated with ECS, tagging. There are Jenkins plugins, there is Bamboo plugin. We have done integrations to the core to the point that customers don't have to think about, is this available with Spot or not? Answer is yes, it is available, and you go ahead and use it.
Even in GovCloud, that's going to be coming soon. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. Can you talk a little bit more of this rendering example with ThinkBox Deadline?
Yeah.
Totally. So Deadline is our rendering application that supports over 85 applications out of the box. And we launched Deadline 10 in August, which connects directly to AWS. And so we have an application inside it called AWS Portal. And what AWS Portal does is essentially let you connect your local infrastructure to AWS Spot, and lets you expand and burst your rendering just like that. So we have customers, and I actually have a 1-minute clip from a
nice.
customer's demo reel that we're going to play. They're
Oh,
Fuse
yeah, let's
effects.
do
I did a presentation with Jason Fodder. He's a CTO and co-founder, and he let me show this off. So we're going to
Can
play
we
this
switch
right now.
the demo screen, please?
Yeah, we'll switch this over right now, and I'll talk over top. So basically, this is work that they've done with Deadline, and they have a traditional on-premise render farm. They have about 500 machines, but they're of various ages, et cetera, and they got into a situation where they're working on some of the biggest work that they've done ever, and they needed to scale. And so they actually scaled up to 1,000 machines in under 10 minutes and connected them. So that's over 32,000 cores that were rendering for 5 hours. And it basically took their on-premise infrastructure, that's about 31 terahertz of compute, to over 100 terahertz in 10 minutes.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
those numbers are so
I know,
insane.
it's a lot of compute.
Insane.
And it's pretty exciting because it sort of unlocks the artists. They can iterate faster, create better work, and deliver like they haven't before. So I'm super excited to see what companies like Fuse Effects do at Deadline and AWS in the future. And Spot is what makes this possible because of the cost.
Yeah.
So you mean it wouldn't be possible without Spot?
Well, it would just be wouldn't hit their budget, right?
Yeah.
So they were able to get 1,000 instances just like that in 10 minutes on I think it was a Thursday morning, 9 a.m. They walk in and they had a crisis. The renders weren't done. Artists were sitting around doing nothing. And what do? You can't forklift in 1,000 machines.
And I think one more thing that I want to point out is, ThinkBox is highly integrated with Spot Fleet. Spot Fleet is one way in which you can utilize all of the best practices that we want customers to use with Spot. Diversify across multiple instance types, have those integrations in there. You can don't necessarily all of these features that no bidding necessary is already happening with Spot Fleet. So, great value add, and all of these new integrations are already in there. So
Cool.
Yeah, what's interesting on this is that they don't have to go to the console at all.
Right.
Right? They just enter their AWS
One
account
click.
credentials, they right click, it's about 3 or 4 button clicks, and they've scaled up.
I got a question from Francis199 here. Does the integration with autoscaling, does the 2-minute warning trigger creation of a new VM?
Sorry, say that again.
Does the 2-minute warning trigger the creation of a new VM on autoscaling group?
With autoscaling groups and
Not
and
today.
stuff.
So as soon as you lose the instance terminated, you will get a new instance. We don't operate on a 2-minute notification today.
Okay.
But that's a great feedback. That's something that I can take
thank
back
you, Francis.
to my
Good
team.
feedback.
Yeah.
And can you make an example of an application that you would not run on Spot instances?
Yeah, I think there are so many applications that are out there. As I said earlier, pretty much all EC2 instances that you use, you can run them on Spot. Except there are few examples where I would not go. For example, databases where you actually want mission critical applications that are running. You don't want them to be terminated. Again, as I mentioned, the interruptions are not a thing that you should be worried about anymore with Hibernate coming. But I don't want you to lose production databases running on EC2 instances at the same time.
Last question from me is, I'm always interested with the challenges that are facing the teams when building stuff like, is it something you can talk about? What was the challenges?
Yeah, do you want to talk about
Sure.
ThinkBox? And
I mean, we came from a world where all the work was done on premise, and the big challenge is data, right? How do you move data in production up to the cloud? And what was interesting about Fuse is they only have a 100 megabit connection, right? And they're doing these things with a short turnaround. And the way that we do that is basically by allowing the artists, when they're submitting the work, we track all the data, collect it, and move it to S3 over multi-part transfer. So we're doing it as people are working, as opposed to, oh my gosh, we have to render everything, and now we have to do it. And now we have 150 terabytes to move. Now it's an ongoing
incremental,
process.
huh?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Once it's up there, the next time you iterate, because in visual effects, for example, you're doing shots sometimes 100 times. And every time you do it, now the data's up there, it's instantly available.
That's a good tip.
It can unlock a lot of new
Exactly.
opportunities as well, right?
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Do you see the product going anywhere in the future? Some ideas?
The Spot instances? Again, we are looking for feedback. 90-95% of our roadmap is driven by customer feedback. So, as customers, as we are unlocking this potential, building it into run instances, making it easy for customers to use, building all those integrations out there. I see we are literally unlocking new applications to come on board and use Spot, which means that it's day one, as they say.
So for everyone online, the advice is give us feedback.
Give us,
and
please tell us how you like it, what you want
Exactly.
fixed, and we're listening.
And show us your work. I always I get really excited when I see the artists and I go
Right.
see a feature film or a project. I know that was created with Deadline on AWS.
Exactly.
It's amazing. So
Yeah, do share your work with us.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see how customers use technologies like that.
that's right.
Great. Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming
Thank
and
you for the
sharing
opportunity.
that
Yeah.
with us, and thank you for being online. And we'll be back in a while.
All right.
Short.
Cheers.
Shortly.
Thank you.